not cover for Donald Trump and his out-of-control administration, which is running roughshod over Americans' rights, killing U.S. citizens and threatening our very democracy. The disease rotting the Trump administration from the inside out started at the top and has infected every part of the executive branch. Nowhere is that more evident than at the Department of Homeland Security. This hearing is just the start of a reckoning for the Trump administration and its weaponization of DHS against American citizens and the principle our country stands for.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem claims that her department follows the United States Constitution. She claims her department follows the law and complies with the orders of the Supreme Court. Those claims are lies. They are documented lies. They are lies that have been refuted by federal judges and by the blood of American citizens. The Department of Homeland Security under the Trump administration has become a lawless agency. It is an agency that kills citizens and then lies about the circumstances of their deaths. It is an agency that ignores the very courts that define our democracy. This is a forensic analysis of the collapse of the rule of law at the Department of Homeland Security. This is the case against Kristi Noem. At the start of a recent hearing before the Committee on Homeland Security, Secretary Kristi Noem took an oath to tell the truth. She then sat down and dodged the truth for more than 3 hours. She repeatedly testified that she and the Department of Homeland Security will follow the Constitution and the laws of this country. She testified that she follows the orders of the Supreme Court. This is the central lie of her tenure. It is a lie because her actions and the findings of federal courts prove the exact opposite. A federal court found that under her watch, the department believes it has the right to stash residents in foreign prisons without any due process. The Supreme Court unanimously ordered the government to facilitate the return of a man named Kilmar Garcia to the United States. Noem testified that he will never return. She claims to follow the court, but she refuses to obey the court. That is a lie. Here, play this clip.
DHS, led by Secretary Kristi Noem, must be held accountable for its lawlessness immigration operation. They are reckless, creating chaos in our communities, terrorizing adults and children alike, and undermining our moral authority as a nation of liberty and rule of law. Last month, an ICE agent shot and killed Renee Good, a Minneapolis mom, in cold blood as she drove away from him. After killing her, the agent called her a disgusting name.
The forensic evidence of this lawlessness is found in the deaths of American citizens on American soil. On January 7, 2026, an Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer in Minneapolis shot and killed Renee Nicole Good. She was a 37-year-old mother and a U.S. citizen. The department claimed this was part of an immigration enforcement operation. Less than 3 weeks later, federal agents in Minneapolis killed another U.S. citizen. His name was Alex Pretti. He was an ICU nurse at a local VA hospital. He was shot and killed by a Border Patrol agent and a Customs and Border Protection officer. The department and the White House did not respond with a factual investigation. They responded with false and misleading statements. They labeled these 2 dead American citizens as domestic terrorists. Here, play this clip.
Instead, Secretary Noem blamed the victim, Ms. Good, and attempted to gaslight Americans with false claims that Ms. Good was a domestic terrorist. Renee Good was nothing of the sort. She was a mom, a wife, a neighbor, and an American citizen who did not deserve to die at the hands of her own government. She should be alive today.
The evidence in the killing of Alex Pretti is equally damning. He was exercising his First Amendment right to record law enforcement. He was exercising his Second Amendment right to carry a weapon, which was legal under state law. He was shot with 10 bullets. A video of the incident shows a DHS agent cheering after Mr. Pretti was killed. Here, play this clip.
Just days after the hearing, Mr. Lyons refused to participate in. CBP personnel shot Alex Pretti, and he was face down on Minneapolis' sidewalk, killing him in broad daylight. In the video of the incident, a DHS agent can be seen cheering Mr. Pretti's death. Americans watched the video in horror.
The department made up a story about his death and blamed the victim. They called a VA nurse a terrorist to justify his slaying in broad daylight. There is no evidence that either of these citizens were terrorists. The government has produced no such evidence despite demands from Congress. Here, play this clip.
Donald Trump and Kristi Noem are doing real damage to this country and to the department that was stood up 25 years ago in the wake of 9/11 to protect American citizens from future attacks. Secretary Noem is a liar with no concern for the lives of Americans killed by the department she runs. She must go. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
This is a pattern of power and control through the weaponization of a federal agency. The department is using the label of domestic terrorists to silence dissent and justify the use of deadly force against citizens. It is using Operation Metro Surge to occupy American cities with thousands of agents who are not accountable to local authorities. In Minneapolis, there are 3,000 federal agents in a city that only has 600 local police officers. This creates a state of law enforcement chaos where federal agents behave like unprofessional goons. They have been caught cursing at bystanders and mooning people from hotel rooms. One agent was found passed out drunk and covered in vomit in a vehicle. This is not a professional law enforcement operation. It is a mass gang terrorizing American communities. The department uses administrative warrants to force its way into private homes without a judicial warrant. This is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment. In one incident, ICE agents dragged a U.S. citizen from his home at gunpoint while he was in his underwear. They had the wrong person. The person they were actually looking for was already in jail. The Minnesota Department of Corrections said ICE had that information all along. They did not care. They wanted the show of force. They used a 5-year-old boy named Layman Ramos as bait to lure his family out of their home for arrest. A federal judge slammed the department for this incompetently implemented deportation campaign. The judge ended his opinion with the shortest verse in the Bible: Jesus wept. The strongest defense argument the administration offers is that these agents are acting in self-defense during dangerous operations. They claim they must make split-second judgments in tense and evolving situations. This argument is dismantled by the forensic evidence of the videos and the testimony of experts. Video evidence contradicts the department's narrative of the Pretti shooting. If these were legitimate acts of self-defense, the department would not need to block state and local law enforcement from processing the crime scenes. It would not need to hide evidence from co-jurisdictional agencies. It would not need to refuse to share information with the state of Minnesota under phony claims of preventing leaks. A legitimate investigation finds the truth. A cover-up hides the truth. This is a cover-up conducted in plain sight. The legal education here is simple. The Fifth Amendment says no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The Fourth Amendment protects citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures. Federal agents are not a law unto themselves. Chief U.S. District Judge Patrick Schultz noted that ICE ignored 96 court orders in January 2026 alone. This is more orders than some agencies violate in their entire existence. The Federal Records Act requires the department to preserve all records of its transactions. Violating this act is a crime that carries a prison sentence of up to 3 years. Any federal official convicted of this can be disqualified from holding future office. These are not suggestions. These are the laws that prevent a democracy from becoming a dictatorship. My professional judgment is that Secretary Kristi Noem is unfit for her office. She is a liar with no concern for the lives of Americans killed by her department. She has oversaw the deportation of U.S. citizen children with cancer. She has overseen the highest number of deaths in ICE custody in 2 decades. She has enriched herself while abusing the power of her office. She has obstructed congressional oversight by creating new policies to block members of Congress from visiting detention facilities. She has run from the questions of the people's representatives. She has stayed more concerned with photo ops and wardrobe changes than with the mission of her department. She has the blood of American citizens on her hands, and she takes no responsibility. The expert authority stack against this administration is formidable. Bennie Thompson is the ranking member of the Committee on Homeland Security and has led investigations into the January 6th attack. He has called for Noem's resignation because she has made America less safe. David A. Harris is a chair at Pitt Law School and an expert on police investigations. He states the handling of these killings smacks of a cover-up. Gregory McGarian is a professor of law at Washington University and an expert on the First Amendment. He states that the government's failure to conduct an independent investigation into federal agents is very unusual. He compares the administration's behavior to the cover-up following the Kent State shootings. Julia Gegenheimer is a former federal prosecutor who has prosecuted civil rights cases against police. She states that there is more than enough evidence to investigate these killings if the DOJ chose to do its job. Institutional accountability is currently failing. The Department of Justice under Attorney General Pam Bondi has been accused of blackmail. She sent letters to state officials demanding they turn over voter registration records while advising them to restore the rule of law. The DOJ has arrested journalists like Don Lemon and Georgia Fort for reporting on protests. They used a civil rights law usually reserved for anti-abortion protesters to do it. This is an attempt to suppress and intimidate the press. The FBI is investigating citizens for using encrypted chats to share the location of ICE agents. The department is buying predator spyware to infiltrate the phones of American citizens. This is a descent into authoritarianism. The procedural consequences are clear. More than 50 advocacy organizations have called for the impeachment of Secretary Kristi Noem. A House resolution for her impeachment has more than 187 co-sponsors. This resolution cites her pattern of constitutional violations, the targeting of minors, and the use of deadly force. The Committee on Homeland Security has issued a document preservation mandate. They have demanded all video footage and evidence regarding the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Pretti. They have demanded assurances that no records will be destroyed. If the department does not comply, it will face the criminal penalties of the Federal Records Act. The courts have already begun to issue orders to stop the lawlessness. Judges have ordered ICE to stop removing legal refugees. They have ordered ICE to stop home searches without judicial warrants. The Department of Homeland Security was created to protect American citizens. Under Kristi Noem, it is killing them. It is lying about it, and it is fighting to ensure that no one is ever held accountable. The evidence is on the screen. The law is in the books. The responsibility belongs to the secretary. Kristi Noem must go. These are the facts. This is the evidence. This is the law. The Department of Homeland Security has a duty to the public trust. That trust has been shattered by a tenure defined by dangerous violations and a blatant disregard for constitutional protections. When an agency lures a child to arrest a family, it has lost its moral authority. When an agency cheers the death of a citizen it has just shot 10 times, it has lost its humanity. When a secretary stands before Congress and lies about following court orders that she is actively ignoring, she has lost her right to lead. The investigation into the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Pretti will continue. The demand for the truth will not be silenced by labels of domestic terrorism. The resignations of career prosecutors show that there are still those within the system who believe in the rule of law. They refuse to be part of a political investigation into a victim's family. They chose their duty to the law over their political prerogatives. That is the standard that Kristi Noem has failed to meet. The consequences of this lawlessness are not just found in the tragic deaths in Minneapolis. They are found in the 32 people who died in ICE custody last year. They are found in the cybersecurity and emergency preparedness budgets that Noem has tried to cut. She has overseen mass reductions in the workforce at FEMA while China and other adversaries attack our systems. She has no written plans for responding to disasters. She has instead focused the department's mission on building a border wall and deporting children with cancer. This has made every American less safe. The path forward is procedural. It is the path of impeachment and criminal inquiry. It is the path of holding federal agents to the same standard as any other person who takes a life. The government is not above the law. ICE is not a law unto itself. The Constitution is not a suggestion that can be ignored for political convenience. We will continue to follow the evidence. We will continue to cite the law. We will continue to demand accountability for every citizen killed by their own government. The Department of Homeland Security must be held accountable for its lawlessness. Its operations are reckless, and they are creating chaos in our communities. They are terrorizing adults and children alike. This is a reckoning for an administration that has weaponized a federal agency against its own people. The truth is documented in the videos the government tried to hide. The truth is spoken by the prosecutors who walked away. The truth is that Kristi Noem lied under oath about her commitment to the Constitution. That is the final judgment. That is the case. The Committee on Homeland Security has given the department until February 4th, 2026 to provide written assurances that no evidence has been destroyed. They are watching for compliance with the Federal Records Act. They are watching the employment status of the officers who fired the shots. They are investigating the use of predator spyware on American citizens. The era of unchecked power at DHS is facing its first real institutional challenge. The results of that challenge will determine if the rule of law still exists in this country. Secretary Noem claims she follows the law. The 96 ignored court orders say she is lying. She claims she follows the Constitution. The dead bodies of Renee Good and Alex Pretti say she is lying. She claims she tells the truth to Congress. The ranking member of the committee says she is lying. The evidence is consistent. The evidence is overwhelming. The evidence is conclusive. Kristi Noem has failed her oath. She has failed her department. She has failed the American people. This has been a prosecutorial news analysis. The facts are drawn exclusively from the record. The law is cited from the statutes. The accountability is demanded by the evidence. No one is above the law, not even the Secretary of Homeland Security. We will follow the procedural consequences to their conclusion. The case remains open. The truth remains the goal. The Constitution remains the standard. Thank you for your time.